Hi, Dearest Lovely. My name is Kaylin Vu, and it's such a pleasure to meet you. I'm the founder of Dear Lovely Universe. My mission is to help people live their best lives possible by transforming them into the best versions of themselves.
All right, well, welcome back everyone to the Resiliency In Running Podcast. I'm your host, Liz, and if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to, you might not be seeing what's actually going on. So this is my first interview that I'm super excited for, and I'm interviewing Kaylina from the Dear Lovely Universe podcast, and I'm so excited to have her on the show today, and I'm just really excited. So I would love if Kaylina, if you could just give a quick little like intro and snippet about your podcast.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's so cute, actually. I love the way that you say my name. I grew up with a Hispanic nanny who always called me Kaylina, but my name is actually Kaylin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My middle name is Kaylin Alexa Fu. So there's that A there in my email address, which might have gotten confusing.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, so
My apologies.
Kaylin Fu. No worries. So I have a podcast called Dear Lovely Universe. My podcast is about helping people become the best versions of themselves. And yeah, I'm very passionate about this. I really feel like my purpose in life is to help people. I'm in coaching school right now to become a certified professional life coach. And what I specialize in is helping people love themselves again and stepping into their power so that they can manifest and bring into success in every area of their life.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I kind of just wanted to start by kind of just diving into both of our backgrounds, and we can just take turns sharing. But before we get into this topic of like forgiveness for the episode, do you want to go ahead and give kind of like your background or like experiences around religion and spirituality and just how that came to be?
Totally. So my dad has been a huge influence in my life when it comes to spirituality. He became spiritual when he and my mom got divorced. He told me that there was no other option, there's no other way. He just had to look for something good in it, right? And so that was always around me, the spiritual aspect, my dad telling me things, but it was always one ear out the other. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was like somewhat spiritual, but I wasn't like, I didn't really, 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 really resonate or like, respect myself and those kinds of things
Mm-hmm.
until about a little over 2 years ago. I reached like a rock bottom, and at that point, I stopped. Like when I say rock bottom, like that really doesn't engulf the whole situation. Just know like it was really horrible,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in like the worst pain in my life, and I had no other choice but to stop blaming God and literally ask for help. And I think it was that point of like of that shift that really changed my life and really opened up so many doors, and was really when I started getting to spirituality.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I know that we were connecting about this last week when we kind of chatted, and I think Kaylin and I just really connected a lot on like this topic of religion and spirituality. And I'm kind of different in the sense where I think a lot of people were raised in a certain religion, and for me, like my family's just not religious, which is okay, and that's their choice. But I think I kind of had a similar experience where it was like I had heard about this God, and you think, oh, is he actually real? Is he not? And it really just took like me hitting rock bottom, like during my like when I was trying to recover from my eating disorder, and just like honestly, like it was like rock bottom, and just like going into your closet and like turning the lights out and just crying and just like feeling like the feelings were just like absolutely terrible, and you just feel like you're nothing, and you feel like you can never come back from like what has happened. And I think it is really easy, like you said, to blame God and say, well, why have you done this to me? And why have you done this in my life? And instead, it's kind of, it needs to be that shift that you were talking about, where you shift into asking God for help and just like slowly just starting to have conversations with him and like praying with him. But it's definitely, I guess it was definitely like a rocky start, but I think it's something that like I'm really, really passionate about now. And I think you've got a really good grip on it as well.
Thank you. I really loved, well, I really, really liked the part that you said, like you were in your closet, turn the lights off and crying, because I could feel that. Like I had when the moment that I was having the time when I submitted myself to like this change, I was actually laying on my bed, like flat down, just crying. I actually remember I was playing the X Ambassadors, like Unsteady, and like those like sad ass songs, and it's just like, yeah, it's a very gut wrenching feeling, but it's a great teacher. I'm really grateful for all of the events that happened, even like the good, like a finger quote good and bad, because I believe that like everything is perfect for us to help us grow.
Mm-hmm.
And even things that like might not seem like so happy, or like things that you might not really want, like there's definitely still good in that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I've also just like on the like flip side of that, like looking at like both the good and the bad and just really seeing how God has like worked in like both of those aspects of life, and just like seeing that like everything that's happened has been for a reason, and it's never because he wants you to suffer or that you need to like go through some like really hard stuff in order to like be accepted by him, I guess. And it's I think I just always kind of look at it as like, wow, like he put me through this, and like when you can kind of like look back on those things and see like, oh, like that's how he was working in my life, or like that's what his like plan was from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly where you are now is where you're meant to be. Every single phase in your life comes at the perfect time. You are where you are now because this is perfect for you. Everyone's journey is different. So yeah, God gives us the perfect lessons for us personally.
Yeah, and I guess what has your experience been just like with, if you've ever been like open about that with people, or just like whenever you're looking on like social media and you see how people kind of construe God to be like this evil being, or this person that like judges you really harshly? Like I think there's a lot of different assumptions in like our modern day today, and especially now it's starting to get like super political too.
Yeah. Well, what my view is on that, to be really honest, I know that in a lot of more organized religions, they see God as a person who judges between like sins and stuff like that. Um, I consider myself more spiritual, and I would say honestly, like love is my religion. I believe that God only has love, and I honestly believe that we are a part of God.
Mhm.
God is an energy. Of course, I believe there is a higher power out there, but God energy is within us. God energy is within the plants, the animals. Love ourselves is to love God. And to love God is to love ourselves. So when people, I believe that God is a very, very loving energy. So, whatever resonates the most, and can never really. I just don't feel like if someone does like sins their whole life, yeah, they might go to like a dimension that is not the most pleasant, but that doesn't mean that God doesn't love.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like, I think it's really hard for people that go through really traumatic things to really be able to see God in that really positive way. And I think those are the times when people really say, well, if you say God is this, then why has he done this to me? And like, I think it's, you get into a really like depressive state where it's like all you want to do is blame other people because you need someone to blame for what's happened. um, and I think like kind of how you were saying too, in like this like realm of needing to really, instead of blaming God, look to God for help. I think also it's like once you start looking to God for help, I think we were talking about this a bit last week, it just really like changes your heart and it changes you as a person. And I think it really, I think we talked a lot about this topic of forgiveness, and this is kind of where we'll get into it. And I think it just causes you to be so much of more of a forgiving person because he is such a forgiving God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, forgiveness. Yeah, forgiveness can mean. So first, I think I'd like to start off with what you focus on is the energy that grows, right? So what you put your energy towards, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this in the most way that is easy to understand. So anything that is, as everything is in cycles, and energy that is the same will repeat itself in cycles. If you focus your energy into this negative direction over and over and over and over again, it's going to repeat itself and manifest itself in your life in different ways. For example, if you hold a grudge or resentment towards an abusive father, sorry if that hits anyone's buttons, you might manifest abuse in other ways in your life. For example, abuse of significant other. So sending love, goodwill, and forgiveness to someone actually breaks that pattern and allows for new connections to come into your life and to manifest better things for yourself. I think forgiveness is a lot less about the other person, but more about giving yourself peace. Because I think the thing to realize is that everyone's trying their best at their level of capacity,
Yeah.
And one thing is that people feel very resentful when they think that someone should know they're going through this, so they should treat them better. But the thing is, people are most of the time just thinking about themselves. They're not really thinking about how you might feel because of this. So don't take things personally. It only has to do with them.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I just, like, I really feel like I felt your emotion in that last part. And I know that this is something that you're so passionate about. And I think that that's so right that, like, I mean, I'm even guilty of it myself. Like, I'll go through things, whether it's friendships or like dating, and even just like professional relationships at work, where it's just like you, like, in your mind, you're like, well, they just need to like be nicer to me because I've got this going on, and like they're kind of just like a crap person. But it's like, if you're not going to communicate that, like, that person's never going to know that. And it just, like, over time, the longer that you don't like communicate that, your grudge, I feel like, just like it grows and grows and grows. And I feel like it just like grows into this massive weight on your shoulders, and you just become like this really, like, and I don't know, like really sad and angry, like hunchback person that just, like, you're not gonna be giving off like love or forgiveness or sympathy.
Definitely, definitely. An example that I can give to that is, well, I've had a very troubled relationship with my mom pretty much my whole life. And I'm not going to go into specifics because that would take a long time, but in my journey to forgiving her, it's been like forgiving her and then she does something again, forgiving her and then she does something again. And then it's like the last time, a couple months ago, something happened and I was like, I never thought I would ever be able to be friends with her again, like forever. you know? And then I came to a point to me again when I realized I just need to send her love and goodwill and forgiveness and move on with this, because one day, like, she's going to die, I'm going to die. Time is like, life is short.
Yeah.
And what matters is who you loved and how deeply you loved. So, you know, you could live in the past and hold on to that grudge and whatever the heck happened, or you could just choose to move on and live in the moment.
That's so true. And I feel like that just applies to like I feel like I can personally relate to that so much. Not specifically with like parents, but just like with friendships and like relationships. I think that I think because of like throughout my spiritual journey, I think like in the beginning, I used to be someone who really held really strong resentment towards people. And if they did like the smallest thing, I would hold it over them. But the thing is, I would never say anything about it. And I would kind of just like hold it in my head. And then I think one day when I was just like really angry or felt like another thing happened, it would just cause me to explode. And I would just like go off, like just like word vomit at them and just be like, you did this and this and this. And just like, even then, like when you are pointing those things out to that person, I feel like it's not new news for them. Like, I'm sure that they know that like what they did was wrong. I think that people are like aware of that. I just don't think that people know how to like emotionally deal with that. But I think that that just like, it doesn't like, that doesn't fix any problems. And like what you were saying about like, just like in the end, just knowing that you just need to be that person that just like gives off love and just, you know, I think it just also like, that's kind of like my goal with a lot of relationships and friendships these days. It's just like in the end, whether or not it's like, whether it ends well or it ends poorly, I always want to be the person that like, I always strive to be the bigger person in situations like that. And I always try to be like as forgiving as I can, because I think I just always try and look back at like, you know, I used to be this really like resentful person, and like I used to not be forgiving at all. And just like when I feel like when God changes your heart, like, and he just like gives you more peace in your heart and causes you to be more loving and caring towards others, it just like, I don't know, I feel like if people see you do that to them, they'll kind of be like, oh, like, and they might be like, well, that's different, and I'm not used to be treated that way. But it might like help like spark a change in them too.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really amazing that you've been able to recognize that you were in the past resentful and have been able to change that. That's really awesome. Yeah, that's a huge, huge step in your life, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, people sometimes just don't really have an awareness of themselves, how they're affecting people. And I think when that happens, you know, I read a book one time that said, if you can really, truly, truly get over something without saying something to someone else and like truly forget about it, then let it go. But if you like can't, like if it's even still an inkling inside of you, then say it. But say it in a way that is, I feel this, not in a way that is attacking the other person. I was actually also listening to this audiobook recently about this guy who was saying like back he used to get into like arguments with this kid before he would like try to go to bed, because this kid wanted to play Xbox, and then it was like, turn off the Xbox, and they're like yelling at each other, and he described it as two big kids. And then he said nowadays what he does is when he tells his son to turn off the Xbox and he's like, no, instead of just going for it, he takes a pause and creates space. And then what he does is he goes, I get it, bud. You want to play video games, don't you? You enjoy it. You know, you get down to their level. You have them feel like you understand where they're coming from, and you validate their feelings. That way you can create a better passage for communication than just butting heads And like I said before, like everyone's trying the best that they can. So sometimes, just being the bigger person is just recognizing that and just knowing like maybe like you don't have to be right all the time. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that this person just needs their time and their space, and that's fine. You don't need to have the last word.
That's true. I think that last part really is like a very hard thing for people to hear, because I think that people always want to get that last word in, and they just like want to like, top it off and like really just like, mic drop or whatever. But like, I think it's something else to be able to like let someone else like have the last word, and just kind of, I think it's also like not only like getting to their level and like meeting them there, but also like assessing like, okay, maybe this friendship relationship with this person, maybe it's just that we need space for now, and maybe we'll come back to this in the future. And like, I think it's also just having a place in your heart that you recognize that. And like I think I have like a lot of like experience just like with people where I recognize that like maybe that friendship or relationship needs some space, and that there's nothing more that I can do to try and like fix things or talk to them. And I think that sometimes like people are just so like jaded by like they have this tunnel vision of like, this is my argument, I'm so mad about this, and I'm not going to see any other way, that sometimes you just need to let off and say okay. And I still hold like a place in my heart for those people that like, I have like a few friends where I'm just like, I know that one day we'll come back together and we'll be fine and we'll be friends, and like in my heart I've already forgiven them, but like I also respect that they need that space to be able to like settle down and maybe just think about things a bit more.
Yeah, totally. And when in those cases when people are having a hard time like letting off steam, and just wanting to win the argument, a good thing to ask yourself when that happens is this important? Does this really matter that much? We can spend a lot of energy trying to be mad. It actually sounds ridiculous, but we do it sometimes. And when you think about it, think about like 3 years ago. What were you angry about? Really honestly, can you remember? So, things that really seem like a big deal right now really aren't going to be a big deal even maybe tomorrow, or like a few weeks from now, or a year from now. Like, put things in perspective sometimes. Like, that's really healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it's like what you were just saying, like I can't think about what arguments I was having in 2017 because that was such a long time ago. And I think that especially just with like everything with like the pandemic and quarantine, like we are just like online so much more, that I think that there's been like just less face-to-face contact. And I think that like sometimes that may like also kind of cause issues. Is like, I'm always someone that like, if there's an argument that's happening, like this happened at work once where there was an event that I was planning, and the woman that was in charge of like the expenses was like so fed up with my team, and she just would not pick up the phone, and she was so upset at us, and we were like trying to take turns to call her. And it finally just dawned on me that I was just like, you know what, let's just drop everything, let's go. Like, her office is a 15-minute walk, let's just go and like grab a coffee or grab a little treat or something for her to bring, and we can just sit down and speak about this face to face. And it was one of the most productive meetings I think we've had in my whole time at that job, just because like I think it's so different when you're like talking about issues face to face versus like people can be behind like a computer or a screen on their phone and say like the nastiest things, or and I think it's a lot different, and I always prefer to have face to face conversations.
Definitely. 100%. People have so much false bravery behind screens, especially when they're anonymous. But when they're in front of you, in your power, it's really rare. Like, a dog can bark, but it's rare that they'll bite.
Mm.
So, you know, talking face to face is definitely the best route to go in any case. I actually learned from Tony Robinson that when couples are in the car and they're fighting, our natural instinct is that when we're side to side of someone and we're not looking face to face, that's conflict energy. It's so interesting. So when actually talking to someone, look at them in the eyes. You know, that is your power in a weird but great way.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think like some of those harder conversations, even when I am having them like face to face, sometimes it's really hard to keep eye contact because like the things that you're wanting to say and like you have in your mind, it's really hard to like look that person in the eye and like say it out loud. So I think that also always kind of like makes me think, well, is this even worth it to say if I can't even look them in the eye and say whatever I'm about to say?
Yeah. Well, the right relationships, the perfect ones for you, are the ones where you can be your authentic self, the ones where you feel at home. Those are the relationships that are meant for you. You
Mm.
know, I just want to touch on really quickly relationship. You know, I truly do believe that relationships can be beneficial. And if you're not in a healthy relationship, it can take a big toll on not just, on every aspect of your life. And if you are in that situation, you don't need permission from anyone else to get out of it. You only need to give yourself that permission. I think a lot of people do is they'll ask people for help in sort of indirect ways, but what they really need to do is just give them their own selves permission and know that they deserve better.
Yeah. I was doing an episode a couple weeks ago about like boundaries, and I think that that's something that I've really learned during quarantine. And I think it's just like learning that as much of a people pleaser as I am and as extroverted as I am, and as much as I love to meet new people, I also do need to set boundaries for myself in some of those relationships and friendships where, you're right, like the right ones, like it's not going to be an issue and you're not going to feel like you can't be yourself. And I think in some of those like maybe more toxic or more false friendships or relationships, you feel like you need to change yourself or you need to be different for that person. And I think that's like a major red flag that we just need to be like, whoa. And I
Yeah.
think that what I've learned in that is kind of like me learning to forgive myself and like knowing that like even though I may have like put in like a year into like this person and wanting to change and be the right person for them, even though like it still didn't work out, I think it's just like forgiving myself and saying it's okay that that happened, but now we've learned from it and now we're gonna be better, and now we like know more for the next time.
Definitely. Definitely. That's an amazing example of what I was saying about how there's good in every situation. You know, yeah, spending a year with someone can seem like a waste of time at the surface, but now you realize everything that you just said. So, it's all a learning experience. And I think there's people in our lives that actually are literally meant to be there to teach us a lesson. Not everyone's meant to stay forever, and that's just the way it is. But yeah, relationships can be huge, 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 huge teachers.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think there's like a quote or something that's like some people are just in your life for like it's like a season and then like something, or for a reason or a season or something.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, I just wanted to kind of finish with how, how we can challenge ourselves to really incorporate more forgiveness into our lives daily, and like how any tips that you have on like for any listeners on how they can be more forgiving or loving or caring.
Totally. Okay. Well, there's a lot of layers to that question.
Yeah.
So I'll just start with the tips, since that is really what stuck in my mind. I think the biggest thing that I have to say about that is to love yourself first. And when I say to love yourself, I mean every side of yourself. The good sides of yourself, like the pretty sides, the not so pretty sides, the ones that, you try not to show people,
Mm.
the sides that you don't like very much, like love every part of yourself. Remember that forgiveness is a key, a gateway to really a better you. Um, you know, when I started off forgiving my ex or my mom and stuff like that, like you don't have to be 100% forgiving yet to say, I forgive you. Like, because actually just telling them and saying that sets off the path for that to happen.
Mm.
Um, to be more forgiving, to be more loving, I really recommend, honestly, taking a little bit of time every day to connect with yourself. I like to connect with myself in the morning and at night, but whatever works for you. And honestly, having a relationship with God in whatever form that is for you not only improves how the things that we've been talking about, but it improves every area of your life. I think in general, people have a lot of stress because they want to feel like they're in control. But the reality is that we have no control over our lives. And the more we realize that, and the more faith that we just put in God, that everything will be okay, and the better relationship that we have with God, the less stressed out we are, honestly. And yeah, so I think one recommendation, tips and tricks that I would recommend is ask yourself, what is holding you back from loving yourself? Write that down, and then reframe whatever you just wrote down into a positive sentence. So if it's, I dislike the way that my hair is, reframe it to, I like the way that my hair is, and look at that list often and tell yourself these affirmations, because I understand everyone has a different way of healing. Some people really don't like affirmations, some people do, but I'm just gonna recommend it because affirmations have worked for me and they can work for you. Affirmations are really wonderful. I hope that answers your question. Is there anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think affirmations have really helped me, and like I'm kind of someone that's like a creature of habit. So I like to like you set aside time in the morning and night, and I've kind of devoted like time in the morning to like really connect with myself, and like I have like a gratitude journal where you have to put down like 3 things that you're grateful for, and like obviously you can't copy what you said the day before, and you say like, this is how I'm going to make today great, and what's like a positive affirmation. And I think like the more that I've written down and like spoken these positive affirmations over myself, I think that it really changes the language of how you speak to others as well. And I think it not only changes the language, but it helps you be more encouraging and just be more empathetic towards others as well. But yeah, I really love, I think affirmations are great. And I know that people think that they're so cheesy, but I'm definitely someone that really, really loves them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And one thing that I noticed about gratitude is it's definitely the key to happiness.
Mm.
And when you have more gratitude, it opens up the pathway for abundance to come into your life. Like living in a continuous state of gratitude is honestly happiness. I mean, there's kids in very, very more unfortunate parts of the world that live in situations where they're very happy. And it's like really almost odd to see. It's like, how could these kids that have nothing, that drink like worms in their with worms in their water and like bathe in like ponds that are filled with poop, how could they be so happy? But it's because they're just grateful to be alive,
Yeah.
to be with their friends, to be with their family, the simple things in life. And yeah, so to be grateful for what we have is so huge.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think, yeah, I think it's so important. And I have a friend that I did my master's program with, and she's actually currently in Haiti, and just like watching a lot of her social media, like Instagram stories and Facebook stories, like it really does like just really change your perspective on how you see things. And I think it helps like change maybe like how you may look at different people and like treat different people. And I think that that's a really important thing to not only understand but really appreciate. And I think it really helps you appreciate where you are right now, and kind of just like circling back to what you started with is just like you are where you are like for a reason, and like you're meant to be where you are, and like it's not supposed to be any different, like, and everything's on God's timing, and it's perfect timing. So I think it's always something that I try and remind myself and just say like it's nothing that I should ever be worrying about, and it's really just, you know, God's got it in his hands.
Totally. There's a few books that I would like to recommend, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Shin. She's amazing. Definitely check her out. The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz is incredible. I really, really, really like Stuart Wilde. He has a few books. They're all like nice and straightforward and short, so they're like you can finish it in like a 40-minute one time sit down read. It's amazing. There's also Ken Honda, Happy Money, improving your relationship with money, which is super important.
Mm-hmm.
And he also has like spiritual tidbits in that book. It's definitely a gem. There's a book, I know I'm saying a lot here, but there's a book called How to Live with Screwed Up People. If any of you live with people that make you want to tear your head off, it's a very, very, very good book. Yeah, right now that's what I got for you.
That's awesome. That all sounds very helpful. And I think while you're at it, I would love if you went ahead and just shared any way that people can get in touch with you, or if there's you know, your Instagram or social medias, feel free to just share, and then I'll also include them in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so again, my name is Kaylin Vu. My website is called dearlovelyuniverse.com. You can find my podcast, Dear Lovely Universe, on your favorite streaming platforms such as Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. My new website is coming out soon, which is going to be kaylinvu.com, but there's nothing there yet. I'll be excited to reach back out to you when it does, and you can let your listeners know. But yeah, well, you can also find me at Dear Lovely Universe on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm mostly on Instagram, so you can reach out to me there. My email is kaylin@dearlovelyuniverse.com. And if you want to connect with me, I'll be more than happy to have a chat. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know that we like just met last week, but I just really felt like we connected so well, and so it was really an honor to have you on the show. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's been listening. And I will have everything about Kaylin and her podcast in the show notes, as well as just any podcast notes about from the episode, any books that Kaylin's mentioned. I'll try and include them as well. But if you would like to reach out to me in any way, or if you have any questions or comments, I'm just Resiliency in Running on Instagram, as well as my personal Instagram is Liz Newcomer. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And thank you again so much, Kaylin, for being on the show.